That brings us to our superintendent report, and I will turn that over to you, Dr. Ross.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and certainly excited to see, you're going to see today the work that's done to be more inclusive, especially as we see our special needs students and general ed students work together, moving more to that as the goal. And so very proud to have them here. If you didn't get a chance to see the news piece that was done on the volleyball team, I encourage you to watch that. It was amazing. I do have to put the caveat, none of the gifts provided to the board trustees are taxpayer funded, so we'll just say that. But we thank you for your service and on behalf of a grateful district. We're a district that is answering three critical questions. Why do we do this work? How do we accomplish this? Why, and what are our outcomes? Our why is that we love and grow our students. Our how is being focused on academic, social, emotional growth and development. And then our what is our strategic plan, goal, outcomes. We have two objectives: every student feeling loved in our schools and every student having demonstrated academic growth in our schools. The 24 strategies chasing these four performance goals is what we measure to ensure that we're moving at that pace. Our state has a strategic plan by 2030 that 75% of the students will be at or above grade level in order to be college, career, and military ready. School District 5, we also add life ready. As we look at the growing season, I want to go back a few years just to see where we are. In the fall of 2022, you can see the amount of students that were on grade level by our fall measures of academic progress. The blue represents the number of students on grade level. The red represents the number of students that were not on grade level in English and English language arts and math from elementary and middle school. A year later, you could see the progress that we made as a district. Our teachers, our staff, our parents, and community wrapping around our children to increase the blue bars of the red, but we still have more work to do. As we look at 2024, while we're seeing gains, it's not to the level that we saw from 2022 to 2023. And so now that looks at new ways of helping students, new ways of identifying barriers so that we can continue the growth that is part of the growing season. As you look at all of our test data is in, and we have increases in every level with the exception of a slight decrease in English language arts. One of the things that I would make the community and the board informed of is right now we have in our district 60 different languages that are at 60 now. It was 51 2 weeks ago, and it went from 51 to 60 in 2 weeks. And as we are working to increase our English language arts, we realize that a lot of students are going to need access just to English. So that represents a pivot that we have to make, ensuring that we can meet the needs of all students. As we track our graduation rate, our goal now is 90.72. You can see that we have a ways to go to get there, but we're working each and every day to identify the names and the stories behind the names so that we can make a difference, removing the barriers so that we can meet our graduation goal. We see overall as a district, we had an increase in the graduation rate, but there's a lot of room for us to grow, and we're excited about the opportunity to grow. So what I would like to do is we've had the release of our school report card data. We have Ms. Audrey Black, who will be introduced by our Chief of Student Services and Planning, Dr. Mike Harris, to introduce our Director of Accountability, Ms. Audrey Black. Dr. Harris.
So much, and good evening to you, Board, our Madam Chair, Vice Chair, Board members, our general community. First, let me do two things. One, I'd like to say thank you to Madam Blackburn-Hines and Mr. Hogan for your efforts, for your effectiveness and the efficiency in which you led this district. as board chair and vice chair. We certainly appreciate all of that for the time in which you've been with us here in the district. Secondly, I'd like to, as Dr. Ross has alluded, introduce you to the newest member of the Student Services and Planning Division, as I refer to it as, and that's Ms. Melissa Audrey Black. She is our new Director of Planning and Accountability, and we are so very, very excited to have her as a part of the team, not only in Student Services and Planning, but certainly for the district. She comes highly regarded, she comes highly respected, and I have to admittedly share with all of you that I was very, very anxious about who would be a replacement for, at the time, Dr. Van Holden. I had lots of anxiety about that because this is a specialty area, as I oftentimes refer to it. But as God would have it, he found us a person of specialty in which to replace Dr. Holden, and I'm very, very glad to have Audrey Black here to share with you on tonight as we introduce her as the new Director of Planning and Accountability. Ms. Black.
So good evening, Madam Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Ross, and members of our community. I want to thank you for allowing me to give you a high-level overview of our graduation rates and school report card. On the slide before you, you can see that the state assigns schools an overall rating on a 100-point scale based on indicators to ensure all students meet the profile of an SC graduate. These schools earn points in each of the indicators. The points in each indicator are then summed to determine a school's overall rating points. Those points are then categorized into a report card rating of excellence, good, average, below average, or unsatisfactory. So please note that each indicator also receives the same rating scale. So a little bit more details about the report card and their indicators. You can see that the number of points attributed to each indicator for elementary, middle, and high school levels. Please note that the second column under each level represents the number of points when a school does not have a multilingual learner population. And so that term might be a little bit newer sounding for people, but it's formally known as the English language learners or English speakers of other languages. So there is so much information on report cards that we could spend hours on each of these indicators, but I'm going to try to do my very best to give a general overview of each. The first indicator is based strictly on academic achievement in ELA and math. For elementary schools, it is measured by students' results on SC Ready or SC Alt in grade levels 3 through 8. At the high school level, it is based on the current year's students' results of the end-of-course exam for English 2 and Algebra 1 and other corresponding SC Alt assessments. I started the next indicator because the state changed the model this year for how it is measuring student growth. The Student Progress Indicator measures how much students improve in ELA and math achievement in grade levels 4 through 8 on SC Ready. It's calculated using an index that combines the growth of all students at the school with a specific focus on students who initially scored in the lowest 20%. Each student has individualized growth targets based on previous performance, which is aiming to track meaningful improvement. By comparing current and past performance on SC Ready, the indicator reflects overall school effectiveness in fostering student growth. The third indicator, Preparing for Success, is calculated on the SC Ready and SC Alt Science academic achievement test results for students in grade levels 4 and 6, and the end-of-course exams for Biology 1 and U.S. History and the Constitution at the high school level. Changes in the science standards required revisions to the SC Ready Science Assessment. So therefore, the Preparing for Success indicator was not calculated or reported on the 2024 report cards for elementary and middle schools, and its points are distributed equally between the academic achievement and the student progress indicators. That fourth indicator is the school climate. It uses students' and teachers' perceptions as measured by the annual school climate surveys. The Multilingual Learner Progress Indicator measures growth towards meeting South Carolina's exit criteria for the multilingual learner program within 5 years. If a school has fewer than 20 qualifying multilingual learners, points are allocated as outlined in the chart provided. I started this indicator because a significant change occurred this year to the students who are included in this metric. In the past, South Carolina has included the monitored students. Those are students who have already passed the proficiency exam and are going through their 4 years of required monitoring. So moving forward, they are completely removed and we will no longer receive points for those students. So I did want to spend just a second on the graduation rate, as these are the 4-year cohort graduation rate for this indicator. And this is the percent of students who graduate from high school with a regular high school diploma within 4 full school years of their initial enrollment. So last year, of the 1,394 students in the cohort, 1,246 of them received a high school diploma. So this equates to an 89.4% graduation rate. So in comparison, the entire state of South Carolina's graduation rate was 85.4%. And of the school districts in Lexington and Richland counties, District 5 is ranked number 1. So the high school student success indicator was reported on the report cards last year, but was not factored into the accountability ratings. This year it is. This indicator includes 2 different metrics. The first are students who are on track to graduate. To be considered on track to graduate, a student must have earned at least 6 credits, including 1 in English and 1 in math, by the end of each successive year in high school. The second metric looks at the 5-year graduation cohort rate. We earn points if any of those students earn either a regular high school diploma, a GED, or the SC High School Employability Credential. Please note that for this school year, only the first-year students are included in the on-track to graduate metric. Next school year, it will include the first and second-year students, and the following school year, it will include the first, second, and third-year students. So the last indicator on this slide is the college and career readiness, and it includes the percent of students in a high school's 4-year graduation cohort who are identified as either college or career ready. There are 6 criteria a student can meet in order to be identified as college ready, and 5 criteria a student can meet in order to be identified as career ready. And so for my last slide before you are the school report card ratings, and I will end here for any questions.
To go back to the other slide for a minute, the student progress, just because that has a huge impact, right? So you said it's the students who scored in the lowest 20th percentile, right? Is that within the lowest 20th percentile within that school, or just the lowest percentile within the whole state?
So at the school, it's looking at the lowest 20th percentile, and that is a portion of this metric.
Can you repeat one more time?
It's okay. So, yes, we're talking about at the school, it's the lowest 20%, so the bottom quintile. And so when we look at those, as part of the indicator is they're looking at that growth of those students, as well as all of the students in the school.
And so, and it's also 4th through 8th grade.
Yes, ma'am.
So now go one more slide forward. Okay, so I heard some people, you know, about like Piney Woods, for example. It only goes through 4th grade.
Grade.
So there's really only 1 year measured there. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And Piney Woods is an outstanding school, just putting that out there.
So, and may I say one more thing about Piney Woods, just because I heard y'all talking about it the other week, is that every year successively the rating has gone up. And so we're only 1.58 points away from it moving into that next level rating of good. So I just wanted to throw that out there for Piney Woods.
This might be a question for Dr. Ross or Ms. McCaskill, but the math, on the ELA, the state is recommending or requiring the science of reading and letters. Is there a similar program for math from the state?
The short answer to that is no, but there's a lot of research being done right now to try to find something like that for math. The state is beginning for our middle schools a program called the Palmetto Math Project, which is going to be for schools with 5th graders and 8th graders that are 50% or more that's not meeting the standard. This year they're only working with 10 schools. They have 5 coaches from the state, and they're working with 10 schools. They have not named those schools yet, but they will work with 10 next year. Their plan is to increase the number of coaches 20 additional, so that would be 25 coaches that they would have, and that they will then work with schools in grades 5 and 8 that have 50% or more in the does not meet category or approaches, so not meeting proficiency.
I think another challenge, Ms. McCaskill, you can speak to what's happening to the standards and materials for math and English.
Right, so this is the first year of a new set of standards for ELA, and we have new curriculum that we are utilizing for that. Next year we'll have new standards for math as well, and we'll be looking at a new math curriculum. Textbooks are being gone through by the state to send out what will be on the actual list for us to adopt, but we'll be going through that as well. And math is undergoing a really, I'm sure you've heard from the secondary level especially, it's undergoing a completely overhaul of the order and the way that the courses will be taught. So it's really going to be different. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
Mr. Scully?
Yeah, since the slide's up, I'll go ahead and ask, with the 3 schools that are showing below average on the report card, or have we identified, I trust that you're working with the principals of each school, and we've kind of identified what those perhaps root causes are, and what can we do as a board to help you give those schools the love and whatever they need to increase that score?
I'll speak first, and then if I miss something, which I know I will, Ms. McCaskill will clean it up, but one of the things we're asking for Dutch Fork Elementary School is just kind of help. We've talked a lot about the challenges of that building and how that impacts just keeping those students in a safe and nurturing environment. The principal will be here tonight to speak on that, and I think those are things that go a long way. We realize that a child will not learn unless 3 critical questions are answered. 1, am I safe? If you can't answer, am I safe, there's no learning. 2, do I belong? Do I feel loved and belong? Can't answer that question, there's no learning. And then 3, am I growing? And I think one of the issues that we talk a lot about at Dutch Fork Elementary School is answering that first question, am I safe? I want to share something I think the board and our community needs to know, especially as it comes to planning, is what we see at Seven Oaks and Irmo Elementary Schools. Seven Oaks now has about 21 different languages spoken in that building, I believe. I'm looking at Ms. McCaskill to see if I'm right.
I think the last I heard was about 23, but same area.
And all of those students then come to Irmo High School. If you look at the indicator in which Irmo High School, and Ms. Black can check me, they had growth in the other areas. The area where they had the decrease was in multilingual learners. And so as we receive more students to Irmo High School who speak a range of languages, there are more languages spoken at Irmo High School than, but how do we resource those? And, it used to be we had to provide, Spanish, but now with Farsi and the many different dialects that are spoken there, I think we have to give Irmo High School credit for the growth they had in the other areas, but recognize where they took the decrease was in multilingual learners.
Anyone else? All right, we appreciate it. Welcome to District 5.
Thank you.
So to Mr. Scully's point was the next slide. Here are the ways that we're going to ask in the administrative priorities or classroom supports in areas of our highest needs where we have that bottom 20% of learners. That equates for almost two and a half standard deviations from the norm, from where we're trying to get them. The amount of acceleration that's needed, we're going to be asking for instructional assistance and extra supports to be around them. We have the reading coaches, we have those that are coaching the teachers, but some direct reports to the students there. And also, as we look for meeting the needs of the multilingual learners, we've talked about Ms. Casco is very inventive and comes up with some really cool programming to get brand new supports around them. We're even looking at some technology features of earbuds that do translations, glasses that actually translate. I know that's the most expensive piece, but we're testing out of a range of different supports. As always, teacher retention, and then creating that safe and productive learning environment so that all children can answer that first question, am I safe? So with that, we'll take a look at where we are financially, and we'll have our Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Heather Tucker, come forward with our monthly financial update for the month of August. Ms. Tucker.
Thank you, Dr. Ross, Madam Chair, and members of the board. We have our August financial updates for the period ending August 31st. Before you, we have our revenue summary, and our local taxes are in line with our prior year. You can see we haven't received anything for our Medicaid reimbursement. We get that on a quarterly basis, and so we should receive that at the end of September. But we are right in line with our revenues as where we were in the prior year. And for our expenditures, again, we are on track. This is the period ending August 31st. So August the 31st was when the first paycheck for our 190 and less employees received their first paycheck for the new contract year. We're still operating in the black as of August 31st. This is the point of the year where in September and October, we start to see expenditures outpace our revenue since we're not receiving revenue from the counties until January. And so we have dipped into our fund balance as of September, but in August, we were still operating in the black there. And so that's what we're kind of looking at as the end of the year, making sure that our cash flow is okay as we move into that time where we are not receiving as many funds from the counties. But those are our financials as of the end of August, and I will stand for any questions.
Any questions? Ms. Huddle?
I don't think it's called the CAFR anymore, but when does the financials, where will those be published for last year?
We will bring them to the December board meeting, but you will have them before then. Okay. They are November 15th, I believe, is the date that they were supposed to get them from the auditors. So, but our finance team has been working very hard. They're actually a little bit ahead of schedule. We've been answering questions as we're getting them. They're doing a Friday update with us, and things are moving well and on track right now. So,
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Ms. Tucker.
thank you.
And I would like to conclude the superintendent's report with a thanks to our principals. The number one thing you can do to support a child is to put a highly qualified teacher in front of that child each and every day. The second thing you can do is support that highly qualified teacher with an excellent principal, a principal that's going to take care of the mind, the academics. They can be able to drive instructional improvement and innovation, the body of the school, the operations. They know how to move 800 to 2,000 kids and staff around the building and make sure that they're safe 180 days. And then the spirit of the school. They know how to make sure that the hearts and minds of the children are cared for. Not a lot of people can do this job. It is very tough, it's very demanding, and they have to get it right every day. And so we thank our principals for their amazing work. And so October, we salute all of our principals and thank them for their service. Madam Chair, that is our D5 story, and that concludes the superintendent's report, and I stand for any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Ross. Any last questions for Dr. Ross? All right, we appreciate you.